This conference will now be recorded.
Just starting on page 1, I guess just a couple of items that popped out at me. Dropping down, this is under the actual through October. Under miscellaneous expenses, we have overspent that budget, but that is, we had agreed to pay some small, really moving costs for Ada. So that is what is driving that number. On page 2, for Amherst CBDG, under their actual, we have overspent that line, but about 2,000 of that is billable, so that will come down after we bill it out. And then I guess a real large number is on page 3 under the radio board, and we typically don't even discuss this much, but you'll see our revenue is huge. But we received $1.6 million from Campbell County as their buy-in to the regional radio board, and that will be moved into a fund, into a reserve. So that is what that is. And if anyone had any questions on anything. Okay.
And those are no surprises from the financial point of view.
Nope.
The first 5 months.
4. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions or discussion at this time?
And Mr. Mayor, we do not need a vote on this. This is just for your information and any questions.
Understood. Next, we have the consideration of a $1,000 bonus for PDC employees.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We started the year not really knowing for sure what our revenue would be. We reduced some of our state monies, but we didn't know if there were going to be more reductions, and left a $19,000 surplus that was undesignated. Well, we've been through the first 4 months, and looking ahead, we don't see anything unusual happening, at least that we can tell for the balance of the year. So staff is proposing a $1,000 bonus for the 8 PDC employees to come out of that $19,000 surplus account. It would be a bonus and not a raise. We did not give staff anything in July, so we think this is something we ask your consideration.
Does anybody have any comments on this at this time?
Mr. Chairman, I think a lot of our localities have given bonuses. I know that not all have, but ours certainly has. I know that our PDC employees have done really good work and continue to serve our localities, and we should recognize them. I think Gary has identified a funding source for this, so I think that we should approve this. I'll make that a motion.
So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Robert. Just to help us in record keeping, when you make a motion or a second, state your name right after you make such a indication, please. That'll make it easier on the person keeping the records. Any other discussion? In making this much easier, are there any that do not approve of this motion? Recognize that this motion is passed with unanimous consent. Next, we move on to the 2021 General Assembly recommendations. Gary, Christie.
Thank you. We received a few comments related to General Assembly recommendations from our member jurisdictions. Most of what you see in your agenda packets are things that I've pulled together. And unfortunately, Dean, I forgot to put the training center in there. So you and I will have to work on some language to make sure we emphasize the state's role for the new year in the training center. typically we have a much shorter legislative recommendations, but this year I extended it with several other ideas. We got some material from the city of Lynchburg related to the airport, and bring you this for your consideration to send to our legislative team that represents our area.
Anyone have any words, any discussion on this matter?
Mr. Chairman, this is Frank Rogers. Just a thought, we've recently been informed by the state that VDOT's pushing back revenue sharing allocations. I believe it's till 24 or 25 window. That's a major local impact, and I would think the PDC would have an interest in encouraging the General Assembly to revisit that for each of our localities and for our region. So I would suggest we include some language in the legislative program. And Gary, I recognize this is late, so I apologize for just hitting you with this. But include some language that advocates for ongoing funding for revenue sharing projects through the state. Or maybe just even transportation more generally, but I think we need a specific advocacy for the revenue share dollars.
Hey, Frank, this is Gary. I would agree with that. While we only have a couple small projects here, they are revenue sharing. And I'd hate to see them get bumped back any period of time, because whenever they're delayed, they go up in cost.
Yeah, this is Robert Hiss. I echo that also. In fact, we just got that notice and we had to push back one project to, I think, FY 24-25. So, and what Gary just said, exactly, that was our concern, is increased cost. And yeah, I agree.
So, Mr. Chairman, this is Frank again. If there aren't any other amendments, I would make a motion that the legislative program be approved with the additions of language related to the ongoing support for the training center and advocating for the state to fully fund revenue share and transportation dollars. So I'd make that a motion.
Thank you, Frank.
Second. Gary.
The second.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Any opposed? Hearing no dissent, we shall approve this unanimously. Thank you. Next, Kelly Hitchcock with the 2020 Hazard Mitigation Plan update.
All right. Hi, good
Hi,
evening.
Kelly.
Thank you. Mallory, you're gonna let me share my screen?
Yeah, 1 second. I don't see you on the list, Kelly. Just give me one moment.
Oh, no problem. I can see me. There we go.
You were above me. I didn't scroll up. Sorry about that.
No problem. We there? You can see the screen?
We can.
All right. Well, good evening, and I'm going to start with this overview on the Central Virginia Planning District Commission Hazard Mitigation Plan update. Whoop. There we go. All right. All systems go here. Oh. Well, now that I said that, it just went away. Can y'all see my screen?
I can see it, yes. Page down if it's a PowerPoint presentation.
All right, there we go. Yeah, okay.
And we still got the opening slide.
Well, you know, isn't that always the way? It was working, and now that you're here, it's not.
I would say you get your IT guy, but I'm an IT guy and that didn't help it.
Holy moly. I am so sorry. This was working, we tested it, and of course, it doesn't want to play. Holy cow. I'm so sorry. There we go.
There we
Okay.
go.
Okay. So I'm gonna move it a clip here. I apologize. We're just gonna give a background to the project, overview of the plan itself and the website, which is robust, mitigation actions, and then sort of the next steps is that basically the FEMA review. So again, the hazard mitigation plan, it is a requirement by FEMA in order to be eligible for hazard mitigation, pre-mitigation funding. You can see the funding sources there. The hazard mitigation grant program and pre-disaster mitigation program, flood mitigation assistance. Our last hazard mitigation plan was within 2013, and it is a 5-year plan. And again, it provides that eligibility for funding, but more importantly, for FEMA funding, but this hazard mitigation plan has been very robust and done in a way that we really believe will open up funding avenues through multiple funding agencies. And that's the goal, really, to, obviously for all the localities is to tick multiple funding boxes. Just a quick overview of the process. Again, the planning process, the assets and risk, the development of the mitigation strategies. And then of course, within that, between that steps 2 and 3 is really data, hazard prioritization, asset inventory, loss estimates. Again, all of that technical data that was provided through interaction with your department staff and local experts, and was led by Virginia Tech Center for Geospatial Information Technology and their subcontractor Sobis Incorporated. And obviously we had a comprehensive stakeholder process. All your departments were very involved: emergency management, public works, water resources, community development, police, fire, extension, school service, the governing bodies. We really, a credit to all the localities. We met with each of you individually and your departments. We also obviously had the federal and state agency participation, the colleges and universities. We had Arriva, BWXT, the businesses down on the river, nonprofits, and obviously the public stakeholders. We did have 2 public meetings. The first on December 4th, that was in the city of Lynchburg. And prior to that meeting, we gave information to all the localities. We had our second public meeting on June 25th. And I just quickly show that all the localities, we provided information that you could put things on your website, and all, again, the amazing staff that you had, information went out, well in advance of the public meetings. We had surveys. So again, we did everything we can to make it a comprehensive process. Again, what is the hazard mitigation plan? At the end of the day, it's looking at the hazards. Our plan looked at 20 hazards. We'll talk about that more. And it's looking at the community assets and, finding that nexus where you're looking at the risk and where can you make the most impact in those pre-mitigation plans. There's 6 main components of the hazard mitigation plan. Well, 7 really in the appendices, but community profiles, it's what you expect in a community profile: who you are, the demographics, growth areas. The planning process, pretty standard, how, who, and when. But then it's the 3, 4, 5, and 6 that really is the meat of the process. It's a hazard information and risk assessment. That's that very detailed data, which I'll go into more, but it's the description of the hazards, the magnitude, severity, past occurrences, impact, details on critical facilities, and all those sort of things. Capabilities assessment, that's really an overview of the plans and programs and capacities of the region and individual localities. Then we look at the mitigation strategies. And then lastly is the monitoring and the maintenance. And that's really something that's where we frankly needed to improve. And we look forward to having an ability to be more robust in our ability to monitor and maintain, because a lot of wonderful things happened since that last hazard mitigation plan. but we didn't really keep up with them in such a way that everyone could get credit for the good works. And so that's where an area that we'll look forward to improving in these next 5 years. So quickly, the hazard information and risk assessment. Again, as I said, there's 20 hazards within the plan. Each element of those hazards, and the Virginia Tech folks and SOBIS, and again, through the stakeholder participation, looked at locations and magnitude, severity, occurrences, and all those things that I've talked about, and ultimately came up with data. And obviously you can't really see these maps, but you'll see more in a minute. Very detailed data. What you see here is just a quick map of repetitive loss area. And that became pretty important because in the last plan, we had repetitive loss structures. But that only means a little bit because all those repetitive loss structures have insurance. And so what really matters is what about those that building to the left and the building to the right that don't have insurance, but they're next to the facility that has repetitive loss. And so we looked at regions and pulled that information. Again, I know that's small, but you'll see more. We looked at vulnerable structures, and this is an example of floodplain in Amherst County. And you really see these little dots, and those are specific resources that are within floodplains. And then we have vulnerable roads and road bridges and all this data, and that becomes really important. So it becomes, and again, when I was talking about that cross-pollination of funding, so you know, if you have those culverts that are backing up and they're causing maybe some road flooding, which we certainly heard about last week, and you know, the instinct is to go to VDOT, to the funding well. Well, what are the opportunities to now go to FEMA or VDEM to correct some of those low-hanging fruit that doesn't always have to be transportation? So again, it's about empowering all the localities in our region to again find other solutions. And then for each locality, there is a dashboard, and this is specifically from the flooding chapter. So again, it's a way like this is an example of Amherst County, and it has 36 flood insurance policies in force. Well, there's a way now with this dashboard that we can really see the changes in those numbers and how we were able, that kind of gets to the maintenance and monitoring, so that we can give we can recognize those changes and improvements as it relates to the simple strategies that have been undertaken. The capabilities assessment. Again, the capabilities is looking at what are those programs, policies, ordinances, and that sort of that the strength that each individual locality has to implement certain strategies. You don't want to pick a strategy that doesn't match the capacity that you have as a locality. And so those evaluations were done as well. And you can see that within the plan. And then obviously, you know, the bread and butter of the mitigation plan are those mitigation strategies. They're broken down into 5 primary types of strategies. Information and outreach. Again, those are that's that information and education, training programs, informational materials, information about flood insurance and how inexpensive it is and how valuable it is. Prevention capacity. Again, those are those programs and policies, zoning, development regulations, drainage maintenance, property protection. Those are those practices or measures to fortify structures or practices such as removal or reducing. Again, those are your acquisition programs, flood proofing, backup generators, warning systems. You know, I'm holding up my cell phone. We know we all get those warnings, and we're thankful for them that come from the localities. Those are property protection or people protection. Structural projects, those are those extensive modification projects, dam stabilization, reservoirs. Those are high dollar, you know, engineering, permitting, long-term, multiple funding agents projects. And then lastly, natural system resiliency. And those are those programs to maintain or restore and preserve that natural system function, stabilization of stream banks and fire resistant landscapes and tree maintenance programs. And we give examples in the plan of all of these types of strategies. And then we pulled from this well, these were the foundations that each locality developed their mitigation strategies. And then we have the website, and it's a robust website. And so I'm going to hope this works. I'm going to escape here and bring up the website. This is the home page. You can see that, right? Yes, I hope you can see that. And so you can hit here and you're going to access the plan, or anyone can access the plan. And there's all the chapters. It's a big document. It's 300 pages, riveting reading. And if you I would tell someone, if you don't want to read 300 pages, the executive summary, read the executive summary, the information, the introduction. Again, flooding chapter is very robust, the dam failure chapter, and then obviously the capabilities and mitigation. So I'm just going to move through this quickly, what you'll see on the site. When you go to the hazards, we have all 20 hazards that you can see individually under these 5 primary categories. And each hazard, you can see here. And then we have what's called these interrelationships, and every chapter sort of shows how one hazard is related to another hazard and how that sort of works within the magnitude of the hazard. So I'm going to pretend we clicked flooding, and when you click flooding, you would come here. And every chapter is set up this way, that you have a description. Hold on. There we go. You have a description of each hazard. On the sideline, you can read the plan, you can download the chapter. Again, sort of the details. And then you come down here, and there is the chapter itself. And what I have here, again, is what I was saying, very robust details for every locality. And you get into these detailed tables. Again, for each locality, you can see here we have road, bridges in the floodplain in the town of Amherst. And so it comes down to it gives all this HIRA data and detailed about flooding specifically. And then we have your dashboard for your hazard mitigation. I was make sure someone said there. And then, so you see maps here, and I can't move this. Sorry, I don't know why that's there. This is not, I do not know why this is there. There we go. And if you check mapping, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I was worried all of a sudden I would. And if you click mapping, I've honed in here to Alta Vista. And you can see this for if you pan out, you get this level of detail for every locality. So we can actually see the vulnerable structures, and you can turn those on or off. So there's those structures that are in the floodplain. You can see those road segments that are in the floodplain. We can then, obviously this is for all the localities. I'm going to go down here to Campbell County, and you can see, so this is flipped, so it's Campbell County growth areas. Well, obviously Alta Vista is in a growth area. So I just want to show you that this level of sort of interactive mapping is available through all the chapters and all the mapping. without details on those things that a locality did not want to put within the public domain. Then we have your mitigation, which we did put on the main page here, so folks can see the mitigation strategies. And we have the regional mitigation strategies that read like most comprehensive plans, where you have the primary goal, obviously, to increase hazard awareness for information and outreach. And we tried to be very consistent. So those are the regional strategies. And the great thing about we made it such that and FEMA said, you know, as long as the regional strategy talked in general, any locality can use these regional strategy wording to provide funding, a funding link, if you didn't identify a specific strategy. But then we get down to specific strategies, mitigation strategies. And that's where you go to a jurisdiction. And if it was working like it should, why? Hold on. There we go. Okay. And each locality has their specific mitigation strategies. And again, you see the strategy type, and then we tie it back to the regional strategy, and we get very specific. Here's Appomattox County. And again, these were, you know, developed with your staff. Like we have here, I'm going to make that a little bit bigger, sorry. Like you see here, seek opportunities to improve drainage along roadways to reduce stormwater and flood inputs. And we have Bent Creek, North Creek, Route 611, Route 666. So we got that specific for each locality. And I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to move it a clip because I know y'all have a lot of other agenda items. I'm going to go back to the presentation. And this is important. The draft plan was reviewed by VDEM. They approved it. It is sitting at the hands of FEMA right now. We have, it's in the public comment period right now. All of you should have received. We gave information that you can give information to your board to let them know that, again, it is for available for public review through the 30th. And FEMA will have its response back to us. And we'll look forward to bringing it to each of your localities. I am happy to come and give a presentation to each of your localities in December, or primarily, I think it would be better in early in January once we've heard from FEMA. And here is the website that I just showed you. And again, comments by November 30th. I just want to stress that all of your localities, your departments have seen this a long time before we put it out into the public. And, you know, lastly, just want to say it's been a privilege, frankly, to just learn so much on the amazing thing that your departments do from your emergency managers. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Kelly, will towns be asked to approve this or just counties in the city?
Towns as well. Towns have been just as involved and have their own mitigation strategies, every bit as much as the counties.
So how binding is all of this? You know, I looked through this list of priorities, high, medium, and low, and every one of them creates a massive amount of work that looks to be incredibly expensive. Does FEMA expect that to be done? Are they going to be checking up to see whether it's been accomplished? Does our inability or our non-performance of completing those tasks, is that going to keep us from receiving FEMA funding should we need it?
No, and that is a great question, Dean. No, it is not a CIP or where it's a commitment to do those things. It really is doing those things based on the ability to receive funding to do those things. Having said that, some of those things that were the low-hanging fruit, information and outreach, each of your localities have robust and comprehensive websites and gives information about hazards and how they can, protect folks during hurricanes or those type of things. However, maybe each says it a little bit differently. So one of the simple things to do, and really we can springboard off the radio board, because it's already a mechanism that brings a lot of these folks together, and use some common language. That's a simple thing to do, but it's a way to show that FEMA and that we are doing the simple things. And again, then that does put a little bit of arrow in your quiver when a locality wants to go after them for bigger things. But no, the hazard mitigation plan is not a sign on the dotted line, you shall document, but it is a necessary document if you want to do them through their funding.
Thank you, Kelly. We'll need to push on to some of the other presentations, but managers, administrators, be aware that we will need your boards, councils to consider the document and approve it for the springtime. Mayor Connor, can we call on the folks from the Alliance?
Next, the training center update from Megan Lucas. Is Megan there or someone else presenting on our behalf?
Megan's not here, but Jamie is here.
Hey, everyone. Yeah, thank you. I apologize. Megan has a family matter in Missouri, so she left on Monday, and Gary and I coordinated today for me to come and just give you an update this evening. So thank you for your.
And Jamie, go ahead and tell the folks what the family matter is, because I think folks know Megan would want to know.
Yeah, sure. Late last week, Megan's father, he's been in the Veterans Hospital there in Missouri for about a year now, and they contacted her. He had contracted COVID, and unfortunately, at his age, that's not a good outcome, and he passed this morning. So she did get the opportunity to be with him some this week. She traveled all day Monday driving, and unfortunately, he passed earlier this morning. So if you would just keep Megan and her family in your thoughts and prayers, that's unfortunate. So last week, we were really busy with the Central Virginia Training Center charrette. So wanted to come, the Central Virginia Planning District Commission, as well as the Alliance, has made the training center a priority to make sure that property continues to move forward. We have a vision and plan for that property. Dean, myself, Megan, Victoria Hansen, continuously are meeting with the state, with the Department of Behavioral Health, and also with the Department of General Services. So we're aware of what's going on. There's going to be some transition happening over the next short term, probably within the first quarter of the year. That property will move to the Department of General Services. And so our plan all along has been to have a plan in place and have a vision to kind of help guide that and what that could look like. And we want that to be positive for us. I will remind you that this project had an $87 million, the training center had an $87 million impact on the region. It employed over 1,600 people. So this was a big deal for us, and the closure of it and the chance that this could become a blighted, underutilized area could have a really negative impact on the region and Amherst County. So all along. You all know that. Just a quick review of why we're doing this. But the design charrette went extremely well. I'm happy to share with you now the results and kind of just a brief overview. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, I see it.
Okay, great. I can't see you all, so speak up if there's something I need to go over. But so just quickly, through a Go Virginia grant, which we partnered with the Planning District Commission, Amherst County, and Amherst County Economic Development Authority and the Alliance, we have been working on this project. So the grant was definitely a big contributor to this. We hired HDR, which their team is in Omaha, but they have an office in Northern Virginia as well. I have been thoroughly impressed with their work, what they have done. I hope, as we share this and this plan continues to come together, that you all will be as well. It's been really an eye-opening experience for me, having this be the first time I've worked on a redevelopment plan. So we started with the pre-charrette process. We did a stakeholder survey to the community. We were really happy. We had 262 responses to that survey, with people giving their input on what they'd like to see at the property, as well as going to the website and being able to be really interactive and add pinpoints and sidewalks and trails or buildings, homes, whatever they thought should be there. We let people do that in a very interactive way. So HDR partners with a company called SB Friedman. SB Friedman is located in Chicago, and they basically provide all of the market analysis that it takes to help support these plans. Because, a lot of people have different ideas of what they'd like to see at the site, but if the data doesn't back that up and the market doesn't support that, the chances a developer is going to come in and make those decisions and make those investments are slim to none. So we really needed the data to back up and help drive the plan as well. So the top thing they identified, obviously was some residential necessities that were in Amherst County and the region, retail, office, and then light industrial. The industrial is not so much heavy manufacturing, but more so lighter tech manufacturing. So that was the top 4 areas where they identified. At the end of this presentation, there will be a website, and I would encourage you to go out there. The full market analysis is on that site, and it is some really good information. Even as you have businesses that are interested in maybe starting up in your area, you could share this with them. It's going to give you some really good data-driven points on what could be successful ventures in the region. So I would encourage you to take advantage of that. So kind of how the process started. The team got here Sunday night. Monday morning, first thing, we kicked off with a leadership meeting. They went out and they toured the site. They walked the property, got a good lay of the land, and then they came back and they drew 6 rough concepts. And so we started the public meeting at 5:30. And then everybody came in, and then, you can kind of see, I put some pictures in here of people kind of, pointing out on the maps what they like, what they didn't like, we need this, or, add that here. And so the team really took all the comments to heart, I would say, and really tried to add in the public's feedback on that. And so by Tuesday night, we had 3 concepts that they had narrowed that down to, and people continued to tweak. And so by Wednesday, we had this one concept, and this gives you an example of what people would do writing their notes, except for one gentleman who actually was a teacher at the training center for 35 years. He brought us 12 typed pages of notes and shared them with us. So that was really fun. And he said, "You didn't give me enough space to write. I need more than that." So people were really involved, and we saw a lot of the same people over the week, and that was really nice. And I think for them to see their ideas kind of be implemented really validated why we did the process the way that we did it. So by Thursday, we really had narrowed down some really good concepts and added back in some things people wanted to see. SB Friedman put in their input and said, based on what we gave you, you don't have enough housing. It needs to be denser. And so they went back and made some adjustments and added that there. And so I haven't done this on WebEx. I'm going to try to do this now and zoom in. Can we see it? Is it a little bit closer, the map a little closer now? Anybody? Can you see that zoomed in a little bit? Okay, great. So
There you go.
we have, as you know, right, you can kind of see here, I'm having trouble with the pointer, but this area here, Colony Road, that's the existing road that comes into the training center property at this point. When you get as dense as this map is, you need additional access points. So HDR, in advance of the charrette, met with the VDOT team. We set up a Zoom meeting for them. And so going by their guidelines, there is already a stoplight here and an intersection. So somewhere about in this point could be an additional entrance. And so that was where they landed with the additional entrance. So as you come in here, this is really, a dense area that's going to have the office space, retail space, mixed use. This purple here is the light industrial. So it's close enough to be connected to the community, but it's not right in the middle of the community. It has kind of its own area, but still very walkable and accessible to the site. This area here, I had already circled this earlier on my former presentation, but this is a building that they preserved, which, we heard some feedback. There's a lot of great buildings on the site. Some, they were built very robust. So to retrofit them is almost, if not more expensive than to kind of start over, but to honor the history, to honor the people that have lived at the site, we wanted to maintain some of the things that we could. So this inn would actually be a building that has been preserved. It's already there. So they kind of looked at it as about a 75 room inn. Now this building here, this corner, in this intersection, they call that 100% corner. So whether you're coming in from the new entrance or the old entrance, it would all intersect here with an attached square. So this would be your high traffic retail area, and I'll show you that on another slide. So as you come through here, most of the rest of this is a variety of housing. So you're going to see, apartment style housing, townhomes, village homes, even cottages, which are really good for seniors who may want to downsize. They don't want to, continue with a lot of, yard maintenance and things like that. And then over here, I wanted to point out, and I thought the HDR team did a really good job of this as well, and the Lee family did attend a couple nights. This is what is now the mobile home park. And they made it very clear that this is not saying anyone's trying to take over any property. This is a vision for the future. So at any point that the Lee family wanted to sell the property, or a developer wanted to talk to them about that potential, we've already got this visioned in because it does connect to the property. And this would be saved for more of estate homes, larger homes. This here would be a community park, possibly a community center for families and children that may be living in this neighborhood. And just a couple other two little things I wanted to point out. This area right here is what is currently the farm. So that's another area that we'll try to preserve. And then this area down here that connects down to the trail system, there's some fun little plans for that you'll see. So don't want to take too much more of your time. I just wanted to show you some of the renderings because I thought that really brought it to life. This is the attached square that I mentioned is at the 100% corner. So you got the new road, the old road, they all intersect here. They've done a really good job of incorporating like the natural features of the site that's there already, using trees for shade. There's a water feature here, but you can see this first floor would be more for coffee shops, food, quick grab and goes, and you could sit out here and enjoy. And this upper area could probably be either office space or housing. And then this here is the cupola. If you're familiar with the training center property, you probably recognize this iconic feature. And so this is on the top of the Bradford building, which served mainly as a hospital for the site. We thought this would be a really nice way. This is actually called a terminating vista, if you know what that is. So this kind of, stops the view as you come in. It kind of gives you a focal point. However, it's also a good way to pay tribute to the people that had lived at the site and the residents there by maintaining some of that history. This is the farm building, which is currently there. The training center at one point had over 3,500 residents. It was self-sustaining. They had their own gardens, their own farms. So this facility has kind of remained, and in the later years has served more of as like their maintenance facility. But thought it would be kind of cool to preserve this structure. And you can see the silo here, but creating an area where people could gather, this potentially being maybe a winery or brewery, distillery, something that really draws people in and gives them an opportunity here to hang out and be outside together and enjoy the views there over the river. So, and then this was the fun little feature I mentioned. So Pittsburgh has one of these if you're familiar with it, but there's about a 200-foot drop in elevation from the top of the training center property to the bottom. So we really wanted to make sure that we made it more accessible and easy to access. So the idea here would be that you could tram down to the bottom. There's a bike share feature here. These trails, are already there in place somewhat, and, they have plans to extend the different trails, but this would connect you back to the city of Lynchburg. So this is really where we get into that connectivity piece of people being to come back and forth across Percival's Isle, either walking or biking, and then, enjoying the amenities on both sides of the river. This was the yield that they gave us. This will be part of the plan. So just to give you an idea, if everything in this plan was developed, you would be looking at over 1,100 residential units, 128,000 square feet of retail space. That's mixed use, grocery, restaurants, office space, about 70,000 Class A, and then an additional 51,000 professional space, and then that light industrial space that I mentioned, and then of course the inn. And I wanted to point out, I think it's really important. This is a big plan, and these things don't happen overnight. And so one of the things that HDR has done is they will phase this in for us and help us kind of determine, and I know this is small, but there's up to 9 or 10 different phases in here, but they'll lay out the plans of the best way to grow this with, starting up front with that, those items that are going to attract people to the space. And as you attract people, you'll continue to attract housing and, restaurants and all the things that come with that. So, and just for fun, there's this is a 3D model of the site. So over here is you're looking at downtown Lynchburg, coming across the bridge, and again, what could kind of exist here in Amherst County. There are 44,000 trees on this 3D model, by the way, which I thought was really interesting. But all of these plans and a lot more, a lot of video from the Charette Week is available at this website, trainingcentermasterplan.com. If you haven't taken a look at it, I would encourage you to. There is a lot of good information there. So I know I'm trying to do that quickly. I know there's a lot on the agenda. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
All right, thank you, Jamie. We'll move on to the Connect Central Virginia 2045 online dashboard. Philip and Ada.
Mr. Chairman, I wonder very quickly if I might just ask a couple of questions on the training center.
Sure, go right ahead.
So Jamie, thanks very much for the presentation. I know you and Dean have worked hard, and it looks like the consultants did a great job. And the resulting master plan looks like a beautiful thing for Amherst. But I think, as you said at the onset, we were looking at an $87 million economic impact and 1,600 jobs with the training center. So regionally, we've advocated for Go Virginia grants, and we've taken legislative positions, to help do some planning on the disposition of the training center. But what's the correlation here? So now this plan exists. I see the yield. Are we looking at anywhere close to recovering that $87 million economic impact, or does this generate the 1,600 jobs? Are they comparable in any way to the jobs that were at the training center? So the master plan is great, but do we anticipate the results sort of being that same economic engine that we've lost?
Yeah, thanks, Frank. I mean, obviously the plan sets us up to attract the developers that we need. We know there's a hurdle, right? There's a lot of costs associated here. We're putting those plans in place now. But yes, I think, if we can start to make this happen, depending on what comes there's no magic wand. I mean, we can lay that plan out. But, if we start attracting tech-based companies in the office space, and we start attracting, light industrial in the industrial space, hopefully the opportunities there to make the impact bigger, right? And, the housing continues as we see, COVID's done a lot of things, I think. And one thing it's made people see is, working remotely, working virtually is easier than we thought. So, can I come live, in the Lynchburg region and work in DC? Yeah, I can. And so, our goal here is to make this, community be something that could be an attraction to people who want maybe a more natural lifestyle, a little bit less rat race. No offense to the northern areas there, but I think, as we continue to develop a marketing plan, the development plan is not finished. We've got a long ways to go with that. They're going to provide some renderings, and a marketing plan is one thing that we'll put together with this to try to attract businesses to the park and to the community. So, we're about on the 5-yard line of the of the football field, right? But I think, we're being really proactive. Dean, I think, would add, the state has said to us, of all these plans, of all these training centers that we've closed, we've not seen any communities that have been as proactive as this community, making sure that something goes there. And Stanton's a good example. There's some blighted buildings just sitting there that nothing's happening. And that's the worst thing that could happen. That would be no economic impact or a very negative economic impact. We don't want that to happen.
Frank, we had a couple of strenuous discussions on several topics. One was we're using almost none of the existing buildings. So a big downfall here is that this plan assumes that someone's going to come in and tear down all those buildings but 2 of them. And in fact, that main intersection that Jamie described, that 100% intersection, is right smack dab in the middle of the newest and most valuable buildings. So they would come down under this plan. Another big discussion we had was, what about a single use? If we want a bunch of jobs, what about a big factory, a car plant, whatever? And what they argued was, look, we're going with what the data says you need in the region. That means this is this kind of space you can fill up. A wild card, putting all your eggs in the basket of a single manufacturer or a single corporate headquarters is possible still. Somebody could roll in and do that, but it's not the place to put all your eggs. Better to put the eggs in a basket that has room for what you already need. So it's really kind of based on the present, and it's not based on, it's going to take a decade or more to build it out and have it happen, but it wasn't visionary in the sense that, we're going to turn it into this one big thing. No, it's just going to be the next best place to live close to Lynchburg.
Yeah, so thank you both for that. I think it's just an interesting transition out of a narrowly scoped economic development conversation into a broader community development discussion. And so I'll be interested to see where it goes. But thank you both. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Frank.
Yes, thank you. Any other discussions on that item? Now we'll move on to the introduction of the Connect Central Virginia's 2045 online dashboard.
Well, Mr. Mayor, before we start on that, we're almost at 6 o'clock, and
yes,
I think Ada's and Philip's presentation goes for at least 15 minutes, right?
Yes.
So,
yeah.
And there is a transportation meeting at 6:30 tonight that you may want to catch if you're interested in Rustburg and the Village Highway improvements. Ada, Philip, is there anything that you need the board tonight, or can you do your presentation in January?
Yes, we can do it in January. Yes.
I think the main point for everyone tonight is just that the dashboard we're planning to launch it publicly December 1st. That's the original plan. it is ready to go. It's a website stating the long-range transportation plan, everything that's in there, everything that you all have already seen. It's just visualized differently, looking better, I guess, than a plan on a shelf, so to speak. So that's really the only thing I'd mention is, but we can do the presentation next month and still accept feedback if that works.
Yeah, I've also added the link to the dashboard into the chat, and I will send a follow-up email to you all with the link. If you'd like to give us any initial feedback before December 1st, that would be appreciated, but we'll take comments on an ongoing rolling basis.
So, Mr. Chairman, if it's okay with you, we'll have that presentation in January.
Yeah, it sounds very good. The link will help us get ahead of it and get a little review before we get to that presentation. Items from the commissioners and staff. Well, thank you, Philip and Ada, for allowing us to push that out. We do appreciate it.
Any comments from the managers, administrators as to in terms of the few elected folks that we have? We have Mr. Hardy and Mr. Connor, but a lot of our elected folks didn't make it tonight. Any thoughts if the agenda was not right, or we're just into the holiday season, or any thoughts about that?
So Gary, I don't have any particular thoughts on it. I mean, it could be a tough time of year for many people. Could be just a tough time of day as well. I know sometimes it's evening meetings are difficult. I know I've got them back to back this evening, but that's okay. We work it out. So it works for me. I'm here. I don't have any explanation why the others are not.
And we appreciate you being here. Well, we'll talk among each other, and I'll reach out to some of the ones who are not here and see if they're willing and able to come out to our January meeting. That's all I have for you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Christie. Next item on the agenda is the meeting schedule for 2021. We have 9 scheduled meetings. I assume everyone has gotten a copy of this. Meetings in January, March, April, May, July, September, October, and November. Any discussion on this matter?
Would be good to get a motion and get it in the minutes, get it on the record.
Okay. This time I'll entertain a motion.
This is Reed. I'll move approval of the dates.
And a second.
This is Frank. I'll go ahead and second that.
Thank you, Frank. Motion made and seconded. Any other discussion? Any opposed to this meeting schedule? Being no opposition, it will stand approved. Our next meeting is now scheduled for January 21st, 2021 at 5 p.m. Anybody else have any comments? This time I thank you all for coming out and providing your time to us today and to readily discuss these items, and look forward to seeing you in January. Y'all have safe holidays. I want to thank the staff for the good job they've done in 2020 so far. Could have done it without them. We do appreciate it. I hope everybody's community can get through this well, and we'll come out better on the other side of the COVID
Happy holidays,
crisis.
everybody.
Thank you all.
Thanks again.
Thank y'all.